Hello. Um, as Kyle said, my name is Nuseva, and I've been working with PSRF for quite a while now. I've spent my time with the carbon charge, and I've been thinking about how we can more meaningfully engage with our goals of carbon neutrality. Specifically, I've been working on an initiative to reduce the amount of electricity we use in our office spaces and engage members of our community in a dialogue of conservation. So we've been investigating doing this with a device called plug load meters. These devices essentially record the amount of electricity that runs through them every 15 seconds or so. They're about fist-sized devices that plug directly into electrical sockets, and you plug your devices into them as you normally would. What makes these special though is their capability to be programmed on and off during certain times of the day. So this means when a space is unoccupied, like at night, these devices can be programmed to stop unneeded electrical draw. These schedules are specific to each plug, so there's the potential to individualize schedules. This is part of a three-part system, so as you can see here, the information is all collected on site and is sent to what we call a gateway. Gateways are basically the communication point where all that information is collected, and then it's shot off to our network, which is a cloud-based service that provides information on how the plugs are doing and their energy use in a web interface. So this first year was largely talking to campus community members about the pilot program and getting interest in being a volunteer. We ended up actually having more interest in the pilot program than we had the capacity to fulfill at the moment, so we ended up narrowing it down to these office spaces. We also worked closely with choosing Sustained Solutions and IBIS Networks as our contractors who provided the materials and services. And then over the academic year, we worked on running the actual pilot. So this started with installing devices in those respective office spaces. Once they were up and running, we were able to collect a baseline over a few months to get a sense of where people's energy uses were. So as you can see here, this is a typical week for all 120 of our plugs. Most of the energy collected was from typical office objects like your laptop, your chargers, lamps, and those sort of things. So on average, our volunteers tended to spend less than 10 kilowatt hours a week. So after this initial baseline, we were ready to put into place a schedule. So we did a quick survey with our volunteers, and we looked at our baseline data, and we ended up setting our meters to turn on at 6 a.m., which was the earliest our volunteers came into office, and turn off at 7 p.m., the latest most of our volunteers came into office. So all of the areas that you can see here covered in gray would then be cleared to 0, which is really exciting because this base was around 700 watts at any given moment, which for reference is like running 16 laptops constantly throughout the night. Once the system was up and running, it was wonderful to be able to share access to the results with all of our volunteers through IBIS's web application. So volunteers could check their data as well as their peers' data. Another perk we all had access to was their website's many data analyzers and reports. One of our favorite tools was the visualizer, which you can see here on the side, that allowed us to quickly look at trends and analyze energy use with just a few clicks. We could group people, group machine types, look at various timestamps, and so much more. Having access to this data also helped us spot anomalies, such as this one at the bottom, an outdated computer using way more energy than its companions, which signals a time for replacement. As exciting as this all is, there were a few key drawbacks. For one, we couldn't manage users as well as we wanted. The next level of access under admins gave volunteers the ability to access their relevant plugs and turn on their devices when needed. However, it didn't allow volunteers to schedule their own meters, so that meant we couldn't make schedules as granular or personal as we wanted, hence the overarching schedule from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. that we mentioned earlier. And when anyone wanted to plan a schedule change in advance, they'd have to shoot me an email, which if we were to think about this as a more overarching project, this would not be ideal. Second, accessibility remained a key issue. The last time I presented, I mentioned that the web platform did not meet Swarthmore's ADA standards, and so that meant issues like color contrast and keyboard navigation were barriers. We also faced physical accessibility questions as plugs were placed at hard-to-reach areas at times, which meant volunteers couldn't always physically turn on their devices in an emergency. Both of these things are sort of things we could potentially work with the developer to improve on or think creatively to navigate. However, our biggest barrier at the moment was financing. So looking at the current way things are running at Swarthmore and the price here, which is 6.3 cents per kilowatt hour, the current savings would only pay back the investment in 50 years, not including a yearly maintenance fee. So that last point was kind of what tipped the scale for us and led us to the conclusion that this was not the right time to continue the program. Regardless, we still learned a lot about our current energy use and habits. While this company's service in particular wasn't right for Swarthmore, we are still really interested in other plug load related studies. For example, these devices may not pay back quickly for small draws like laptops, but it helped us find the bigger energy spenders on campus. So rather than metering all of our outlets by focusing on big fish like charging stations, lab equipment, and vending machines, we could target those larger vampire energies and more effectively reduce our energy at a better rate of return. Additionally, members from our CS department are working on developing their own plug load meters to help with computer lab management, and so that's really exciting. And there are so many other learning outcomes that I could touch on, but I'd like to end on a note of community engagement, which is what we started this project on. What I enjoyed most about this project was getting to talk to people and hear how proud they were about switching off their power strips and all their tips and tricks to reducing their energy footprints. And this excitement is so key and what we should continue to highlight. And every time we leave something on or keep something plugged in, we use energy that we didn't necessarily have to. And while our current savings are maybe not financially strong, it's always important to keep a bigger picture in mind. So we're talking about saving a pound of carbon every time we reduce a kilowatt hour. So I encourage everyone to keep on unplugging. And with that, I'd just like to give a thank you to the team that has helped bring this project into fruition, both present and past. And of course, a bigger thank you to all of the volunteers who have made this study possible.